Hello, I managed to get my hands on a real vintage beauty of a machine here. This is the Clavioline, or Clavioline, I don't know how it's pronounced, excuse me. But this was invented by Constant Martin, a French guy, and I think the first commercial versions was about 1947. I'm not sure what year this actual one is, but they appeared in 1947. This, like I say, this is the French version. There was many versions made. There was made in the USA and England and Germany under license to Constant Martin. Now, unfortunately, I got this and I kind of plugged the big 7-pin connectors in and things and fired it up, and there was a little flash of light down here, and that was it. It was dead. So that's a bit sad because I wanted to kind of demonstrate it for a video. But all is not lost. That is a good thing in a way, because that means I get a chance to open it up and get inside there and show you what's inside one of these machines. I know there's several valves in this unit, and there's a few valves in here. This is the amplifier basically, and the power supply for the actual keyboard here. Now, it's a funny shape for a reason. This was actually designed to screw underneath the piano. And I'll show you what I mean. There's a sort of a picture of a happy lady, and she's got one screwed underneath her piano, so she play along with the piano and use this as an accompaniment. And it's one of the very earliest sort of synthesizers, really. But anyhow, long story short, it's come my way, so you know I've got it for a while to try and sample it and make some sounds, etc. But like I say, it's dead, and the way it died so sort of rapidly, I'm kind of assuming it's just a fuse. It's something simple like a fuse. There was no smell of burning or anything like that. I just powered it and that was it. It was dead in an instant. So I'm not expecting any major damage in here, just something simple, hopefully, fingers crossed. Now, this case houses the power supply and the amplifier, like I said earlier, and it also houses this. This kind of slots into the top, the whole thing closes, and you carry the whole piece together as one. I'm quite surprised this grill has not been damaged. I mean, it's quite brittle, and yet it's not cracked or anything, so I think it's been well looked after until I plugged it in. So my idea is the problem of a fuse, if it is a fuse, is going to be in this section here. So I'm going to just dismantle this and show you what's inside it, and I'm going to have a search around to see if there's any damage in there at all. So this Clavioline, you've probably heard it in lots of famous songs from a long time ago. I think maybe the Tornadoes, the Telstar, that was Joe Meek's band, and they used one. And there was also the Beatles, Baby You're a Rich Man, and there was also Charles Westover, who was known as Del Shannon, who did Runaway, and there was a fantastic sort of musical part in there, the bridge solo, which was actually done by Max Crook. Although that wasn't actually done on one of these Claviolines. It kind of was, but it isn't entirely true, because what Max did, he kind of made an instrument called the Musitron, and the majority of that sort of musical instrument was the Clavioline, but he kind of added lots of bits and pieces to it and made it his own instrument, and that was called the Musitron, but he couldn't really copyright it because mainly it was the Clavioline. But anyhow, I'm just going to whiz this around so I can get a better sort of an angle and look at this, and yeah, I can see immediately what's gone wrong here. If I just hold that like that and just zoom in for you, and you should be able to see the mistake. Now, on the main transformer here, you have a voltage selector, and what happens is you sort of select this, depending on where you are in the world, pull it out and put it in from that center pin to wherever it says your voltage. 110, 120, 130, 220, 250, and that was in 110. So this has been powered up on the UK mains, and it's expecting 110 volts. It's got more than double, and no wonder the fuse has blown on it. Now there is a fuse on here, but this is just the transformer for the speaker, that's all. And what you find on some of these old radios and things like that is the actual selector itself is the fuse. Because as you can see, there's no visible fuse anywhere in there. That's because this part here, if you pull it out, that normally is the fuse. I bet you if I put my meter across that, there's going to be no connection. Alright, just set that to bleep. Okay, so this has got to connect, and it doesn't. So that actually is also doubles up as the fuse. And if you can just see if I can get that correct in the light, there's a little burn mark across there. So that was probably a piece of fuse wire connected across there, and that's blown off. Simple as that. This is the fuse. How do you put the fuse into this? It's just fuse wire. Oh, here we go. This is simple enough. There. Get that in the light. You can see this fuse wire there, and that wraps around one of these posts. There's two pieces of metal, like two washers, and you wrap it around there, and you go across once to the other side and connect it, and that is your fuse as well as your voltage selector. And it's not obvious. It's not written anywhere. It doesn't say fuse on the back or anything else like that. So you could be really at a loss with some old valve radios, amplifiers and things like that, if there's just no power getting to it, and you're looking all over the place for a traditional glass fuse or something. There isn't one. This is from the possibly early 50s, this machine, and you know, you could be staring at this for weeks on end before you realise that that actual selector is also the fuse holder. So that's great. All I'm going to do here, I'm going to whiz this amplifier out anyway. Well, it's the amplifier and the power supply. I'm going to have a look at this anyway, just to see what condition the capacitors and things are in. But I'm going to put a piece of fuse wire across there and try and power it up. Obviously making sure it's in the 250 section, not the 110. So yeah, it would have been nice if they'd written fuse across there and, you know, 1 amp or 3 amps or something. Because if you didn't know about these things, you would never ever have found that piece of fuse. Right, they're a little bit sort of weird to thread. So I've gotten it around one of the pins there, and I'm just going to come across to that one, try and get it in between the two and turn it around just one turn should be enough to hold it together. So on the actual little holder now, you can only go one piece from one pin to the other, just one piece. Don't go across and come back and go across and come back, because then it's the wrong fuse rating then. So I put those two bits back on there. I hope this is it. That'd be a nice simple repair. And make sure it's in the 250 connector. Let me just show you the underneath of the amplifier, because I just want to have a look to see if there's any capacitors split and dying on this. I don't know, it might have been recapped in the past. It looks pretty clean actually, so it looks like somebody's been looking after it. Get this out without knocking the valves the valves, or the vacuum tubes, as it's known in the States. So let's have a look underneath. The valves are very nice and clean. Somebody's been looking after this really well. Oh, look at that. No dust, no crap. Yeah, it kind of looks okay. These capacitors do look a little bit old, but I guess they'll be okay. I mean, something like this, it's best to take out these old antique capacitors and just change them as a matter of yeah, just do it after several years. They don't last forever. They tend to dry up and crack and cause more problems later on. Right, good news is all the valves are on. When it's nice and warm, the valves are on and it's humming, and I think that was it. Obviously, it's just that piece of fuse wire that needed doing. There's a knee lever down here. That's the volume or expression, if you wish. So that should bring in a bit more volume. Sounds awful, but nice in a kind of a strange way. I think that's possibly working. There's lots of little selector switches on the front. I'm not entirely sure what they'll do, but if you use this sort of card that comes with it, to show you on there, that's the deluxe model, and all these settings mean something, like violin, saxophone, trumpet. Actually, let's try and set up the saxophone and see what that sounds like. So put on number 2, and we'll have just buzzing 2 and 3 and 7. Hang on, I've lost my space now. 2, 3, 7 and O. Right, so this is going to be a saxophone. Yeah, right. Well, yeah, okay, that's a saxophone. Now then, even though this has only got 3 octaves on it, it's actually got 5, because you've got a little shift button on the front here, and you can shift it up another octave or shift it down another octave, and that gives it 5 octaves. Now, there was a version made by Harold Bode. He's the guy who made the Bode pitch shifter, and he made a version that had actually 6 octaves on it, but I think they're quite rare. I think they're very rare actually to get the 6 octave versions. But anyhow, so we've got 5 octaves of saxophone. Okay, let's try something like a bassoon, shall we? So we want that one down, that one up. So bassoon, 3 and 7 and O. Okay, here's the bassoon. There you go, a bassoon. Unmistakable, isn't it? Sorry. No, look, it works. It's surprisingly reasonably in tune. Because all you've really basically got in here are banks of resistors and things, and yeah, set of valves to generate the sound, the tone, and timbres and whatever. So okay, that's the bassoon. Right, okay, so this is going to need a little bit of work doing here, but the great thing is it's making a noise, it's sort of working, which is wonderful. Now, it is working, so there's no sort of reason I should really be going inside this section of it. But as it's on the desk, why not? Open it up, have a look. So I've got to take the knee control off, and a few screws missing. Gotcha. Yep, that was stopping the back coming off as well. So, ooh, pretty electronics. Well, that's interesting. There's actually 4 potentiometers there, but these ones are hidden behind this panel, so they're not adjustable. Maybe you unscrew this side panel and adjust, maybe it's something to do with tuning. I'm not too sure. I haven't got a clue. I just want to have a look inside this. It's got 7 valves in it, lots of crusty old components. Some of these capacitors look a bit strange. I'm not going to change any of the caps or anything inside this. As a matter of age, sometimes if you had an instrument like this and you're sort of updating it, you would not updating it, but you know, looking after it, repairing it if you wish, you would change a lot of these old capacitors and, you know, just refresh them, because after several years they're just not very good. And some of the caps, well, they look okay, but that doesn't really mean anything. Capacitors do sort of break down eventually. There's another potentiometer here. I'm not going to touch any potentiometers. Maybe just the volume slider. Maybe I could give that a little clean up, because that's a little bit scratchy. That's it. It's a nice way. I like the way that works. This is a new recording, and it goes tap tap. Okay, let's try this. The switches are really simple design. There's just 2 sort of bits of metal coming up. They're the contacts, there and there. And then on the actual switch, there's just another piece of metal, which is a bit like a blade. And when you press it in, it just touches those 2 contacts. Very simple switch. And that is exactly the same as the way that the keys work as well. Let's see if I can get this in focus. See, there's your 2 contacts, just there, and the key is that piece of metal. And so as you press the key, it just pushes against those 2, and that's how it makes contact. So you have your 2 pieces of metal, like so, and then the switch, or the key that you press, just comes along and contacts it. Now, because it bends a little, it kind of helps it to stay clean. But yeah, some of them aren't so good. But it is quite reliable, because when the metal pushes, it sort of bends against it, and that little bit of rub like that helps to keep the crap off it, and, you know, keeps it fairly good. Not bad for its age. So the keys, I can really leave that for another day to clean that up. This stand is awful. But like I say, normally you just put this underneath a piano or something. This is not the easiest thing to do. So yeah, this does need a bit of key cleaning, because the contacts aren't very good on it, and some of the rocker switches, you have to kind of wiggle them around a little bit until they make a good contact. So yeah, this potentiometer on the side here, it's kind of a fine tune, and the chicken head potentiometer under the front is more of a coarse tune. So yeah, that kind of works. Fantastic. But I think there's quite a bit more cleaning and work that needs to be done to this, really, to bring it back to perfection. But it's nice to bring back an old instrument and keep it working for another 50 years or so. Anyhow, hope you liked that video, and if so, please give us a thumbs up. That always helps. And tune in. More stuff on the way soon. All the best. Bye-bye.